In the bustling town of Onitsha, where the morning sun painted the zinc roofs gold and the air hummed with the songs of traders, there lived a boy named Emeka. He was 12 years old when his widowed mother brought him to the shop of Mr. Obina, the wealthiest merchant in the eastern market. "My son," his mother said, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, "serve Ogre Obina well for 7 years. He has promised to establish you with your own shop when the time comes." Mr. Obina stood before them like a baobab tree, tall, imposing, and seemingly unshakable. His belly protruded like a water pot beneath his expensive lace egbada, and gold chains hung around his neck like the chains of prosperity itself. 7 years, Obina declared, his voice booming across his expansive shop. "Serve me faithfully, and I will set you up properly in business. This is my covenant before God and man." The community elders nodded in approval, and Emeka's mother left, her heart heavy but hopeful. The years of servitude. Emeka worked like the legendary tortoise who never rested. From dawn, when the first cockerel announced the day, until the bats began their evening flight, he swept, arranged goods, attended to customers, and ran countless errands. His hands grew calloused, his back grew strong, but his spirit remained unbroken. Mr. Obina's wealth expanded like flood waters during the rainy season. His shop became 3 shops, then 5. He built a mansion that towered over the neighborhood like a mountain, with gates so high they seemed to touch the clouds. Yet, as his fortune grew, so did his arrogance. "Emeka," he would bark, "my shoes need polishing. Emeka, go to my house and help my wife with the cooking. Emeka, my children's school uniforms need washing." What began as apprenticeship training transformed into household slavery. Emeka became cook, cleaner, nanny, and shop boy all at once. The other apprentices whispered their sympathies, but none dared speak against the mighty Obina. The broken promise. 7 years passed like 7 seasons of drought, long, difficult, and testing. On the appointed day, Emeka approached his master, his heart drumming like the ekwid during New Yam festival. "Ogre, today marks 7 years since I began serving you." Mr. Obina looked up from counting his money, crisp naira notes stacked like firewood, and laughed, a sound like thunder without rain. "Emeka, my boy, have you not heard? Business is not what it used to be. These economic challenges, you understand. You need to be patient. Give me 2 more years. Just 2 more years." 2 years became 3. 3 became 5. The 7-year covenant stretched to 14 years like rubber being pulled beyond its limit. Emeka was now a man of 26, yet he remained trapped in servitude. His mother had died during this time, and he couldn't even afford to give her a proper burial. The shame burned in his chest like hot coals, but still, he worked, clinging to the hope that his master's heart might soften. The elders of the community finally took notice. Led by Ike Okonkwo, the oldest man in the town whose wisdom was as deep as the Niger River, they summoned both Emeka and Obina to the village square. "Obina," Ike Okonkwo's voice crackled like dry leaves, "the ancestors are watching. You made a covenant. 14 years has this boy served you. If you keep him longer, you are no longer a master but a kidnapper. You are no longer a businessman, but a slave driver. The gathered crowd murmured in agreement, their voices rising like a swarm of bees. Abena shifted uncomfortably, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool Harmattan breeze. His reputation was at stake. Reluctantly, like a python being forced to release its prey, he agreed. "I will establish him," he said through gritted teeth. But his establishment was as meager as the last harvest before famine. He found a small corner shop in a forgotten part of the market, barely bigger than a chicken coop. The goods he provided were worth only 1,000,000 naira, a pittance compared to what other established apprentices received. It was an insult wrapped as a gift. "This is what I can afford," Abena declared before the elders, his face showing no shame. Emeka accepted it. What choice did he have? He prostrated before the elders in gratitude, took the keys to his tiny shop, and began his journey. Emeka's shop was so small that customers had to stand outside to be served. But he treated every customer like royalty. The old women, who bought single cubes of seasoning, received the same respect as wealthy traders buying in bulk. Children running errands were served with patience and kindness. "That Emeka boy, he has a good heart," people began to say. His honesty became legendary. Once, a customer overpaid him by 10,000 naira, and Emeka chased the man down 3 streets to return it. In this world where traders use false weights and measures, the man told everyone, Emeka's scale is balanced by the hand of God himself. Slowly, like a seedling pushing through hard ground, Emeka's business grew. After 1 year, he moved to a slightly bigger shop. After 2 years, he began to stock imported goods. By the 3rd year, he had become the go-to distributor for several popular brands. His reputation for integrity and fair prices spread like Harmattan fire through dry grass. Soon, other traders were buying from Emeka in bulk. He became a wholesaler, then a major distributor. His warehouse expanded. He employed workers, treating them with the kindness he had wished for during his own servitude. Meanwhile, Mr. Abena's fortune began to crumble like termite-eaten wood. It started with a phone call. "Sir, your container, there was a storm, the ship, it sank." The container from China carried goods worth millions. His entire fortune was tied up in it. No insurance. No recovery. Gone? Swallowed by the ocean like Jonah by the great fish. The bank loans he had taken, loans he had been so confident he could repay, now became chains around his neck, heavier than any iron. Creditors came like vultures to a carcass. His shops were seized one by one. His mansion taken by the bank. His cars sold at auction. The mighty Abena, who once walked with his chest puffed out like a peacock, now shuffled through the market with his head bowed like a mourning dove. He became a petty retailer, buying small quantities to resell, feeding his family from hand to mouth. One hot afternoon, when the sun hung in the sky like an angry eye, Abena gathered the little money he had and went to buy goods. His feet, through no conscious decision of his own, led him to Emeka's warehouse, now the biggest in the eastern market. He stood at the entrance, shame and hunger wrestling in his belly. Inside, the warehouse buzzed with activity. Workers moved about efficiently. The sound of cash registers rang like church bells. This was the empire built by the boy he had nearly destroyed. At the counter, Abena counted out his money with shaking hands. "Give me 10 cartons of—" "No, wait, make it 8. "No, maybe 6 would be better." The cashier, a sharp-eyed young woman named Ngozi, grew impatient. She had heard stories about Abena, how he had treated his apprentices like animals, how he had grown fat on their labor while they starved. She began removing items and recalculating. Abena kept changing his mind, adding, subtracting, his calculations never quite matching his meager funds. "Sir," Ngozi finally snapped, her patience exhausted like water in a cracked pot. "If you know you don't have money, why are you bothering yourself coming here? Stop wasting my time. I have important customers to attend to." Abena's face flushed with anger and shame. "Who are you to talk to me like this? Do you know who I am? Do you know who I was?" "I don't know you," Ngozi retorted, her voice sharp as a new machete. "Neither do I want to know a wretched person like you." She paused, then added with venom, "When the world smiled at you, what did you do? You chose to look down on others, to treat them like dirt beneath your feet. See where retribution has brought you now." The commotion drew attention. Workers stopped. Customers turned to look. The air grew thick with tension. Then, from the back office, Emeka emerged. Emeka's eyes fell upon his former master, and for a moment, time seemed to stop. Here was the man who had stolen 14 years of his life. The man who had worked him like a beast of burden. The man who had denied him even the dignity to bury his mother properly. But what Emeka saw was not the cruel taskmaster of yesterday, but a broken man, a living reminder that pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Without hesitation, Emeka prostrated slightly in the traditional greeting of respect. "Oga Abena," he said gently, his voice carrying no trace of mockery. The entire warehouse fell silent. Even the flies seemed to pause in their buzzing. Emeka turned to his workers. "Give him everything he needs. Everything. And you will not charge him 1 naira. Not 1 kobo. From this day forward, whenever Oga Abena comes to this shop, he pays nothing. Do you all hear me?" "Yes, sir," the workers chorused, though their faces showed confusion. Abena stood frozen, like a man who had seen a ghost. Then, slowly, tears began to roll down his cheeks, tears that carved rivers through the dust on his face. "Emeka." His voice broke. "Emeka, my son." He fell to his knees in the middle of the warehouse, this man who had once stood tall and proud, and wept like a child who had lost his way home. "Ah! Had I known," he cried, beating his chest. "Had I known I would have treated you better. Had I known that the boy I trampled would become the man I would need, I would have shown mercy." The elders say that the lizard that jumped from the iroko tree to the ground said he would praise himself if no one else did. But I jumped from my iroko tree of pride, and the ground has broken my back. Emeka helped him to his feet. "Oga, what is done is done. The past is like yesterday's rain, it has fallen and soaked into the earth. We can only choose what we do today. Abena left the warehouse that day with his goods, his dignity partially restored by the mercy of the one he had wronged. But the lesson had been carved into his heart like proverbs on ancient stones. That evening, as Emeka closed his shop, the elders of the community came to commend him. "You have taught us all something today," Ike Okonkwo said, his aged eyes twinkling with approval. And so the story of Emeka and the evil ogre spread throughout the land, carrying with it wisdom that would be passed from generation to generation. The tree you see today standing small and tender may one day grow to give you shade when the sun is hot. Therefore, treat every person with kindness, for you do not know who will rise and who will fall. The powerful of today may be the powerless of tomorrow, and the servant of yesterday may become the master of the future. Do not rejoice when your enemy falls, nor let your heart be glad when they stumble, for the same ground that catches them might one day catch you. And most importantly, success is not only measured by wealth accumulated, but by character maintained. Emeka's wealth was built on the foundation of integrity, honesty, and kindness, and that is why it stood firm. Abena's wealth was built on pride, cruelty, and broken promises, and that is why it crumbled. Remember always, how you treat people on your way up determines who will catch you on your way down. And with that, the story of the evil ogre became one more thread in the rich tapestry of wisdom that our ancestors have woven for us, a reminder that in the end, it is not the wealth we gather, but the lives we touch and the mercy we show, that truly defines who we are. Akuko Agwala. The story has ended.